have a question?
Go
Or you want me to say something first?
ahead.
You should, well, think of a question. You're not getting out of a question. I had done I had done a live record date with Philly Joe and his band. But that's another story. But what made me think of that, I did a record date with a vocalist where she used 3 different drummers, and Elvin Jones was one of the drummers. So we rode back to the airport together. It was in Washington, D.C. And so now I've got Elvin all to myself in this cab to the airport. And so I was saying, Jones, I just cannot figure out where you're coming from with this. I mean, I've just never heard anything else like that. And so I said, well, who were your influences? And so he started mentioning all these different guys. You know, of course I knew about Max. And then there's this legendary guy from Chicago, Ike Day, that everybody talks about from that era. And, he just mentioned all these guys. And at the very end, just before we got out of the cab, he said, you know, man, I didn't want to play like him, but I always loved Philly Joe. He said, I savored him like a fine wine. And I kept that in mind, and I was hanging out with a guy in France, of all places, a French drummer, and he said, man, I'm really having difficulty understanding Philly Joe. And I was thinking, well, have you heard of the Wilcoxon book? Something like that. No. And I said, man, I'm having trouble with Elvin. He said, well, man, all Elvin is playing is rudiments. I said, what? I said, all Philly Joe is playing is rudiments. He said, no, man. He said, like, I was stationed in the barracks, behind the band in the Army for 5 years. And, my room was right at the percussion room. I mean, my room where I slept. And so for 5 years I heard rudiments. I'm telling you that all Elvin was playing was rudiments. And I thought about it. And then and the third thing was, just before Elvin died, the last 4 or 5 years, he began to do these little clinics around. And at each one of them, he featured the Wilcoxon rudiment, the 3 camps, at all his things. And that was something I thought was totally Philly Joe. Anyway, that's what comes to mind when I hear that.